your brain does what you tell it over and over and over again.
Yes.
Your brain does what you tell it. If you say the world is a horrible place and you take in all the negative stuff all the time, your brain will be like, oh yeah, the world's a horrible place. That's what we believe. Or if you're like, no, this is actually the best time in the history of the entire universe to be alive.
You're going to find different things in your environment when you start your day that way. Welcome to Hyperfocus and High Performance with Christine Howe, where we explore how you can work with your brain, build your dreams, and live on purpose with more clarity, creativity, and presence. Today for the Think Time podcast, we are welcoming Lucas LeFevre. And a lot of times I'll be focusing on the ADHD high achiever, but today I am zeroing in on the creative leader as Lucas is joining us today. So thank you so much for being here.
Absolutely.
For people who aren't familiar with your work, can you share a little bit about who you are and the season of life that led you to create Holy Work?
Sure, man. Yeah, that's a big question. Right now, my name is Lucas LeFevre. I founded and run a little business called Holy Work. And what we do is I help mentally overwhelmed, emotionally numb, and spiritually disconnected people slow down enough to figure out where they're going. That's like the little sentence I've got to talk about it, but really it's through the practice of journaling. A lot of people have a lot of feelings about journaling, but I actually started because I was in pretty desperate place in 2009, 2010. My wife and I were just kind of struggling, mostly because of me. And we had just moved from Illinois down to Nashville for a new job. I started working for Dave Ramsey at that time, and we didn't know anybody down here. We just moved our family. We just had two little kids at the time. And I just was a really discontent person. I would call myself a Christian, yes, but I wasn't like seeking each day. I wasn't practicing anything. I would go to church on Sundays, but I was just a discontent person. Always the grass was greener somewhere else. And I would just be like, why am I so unhappy? I just had this tone. It was just like, my wife was like, what's wrong with you? And I started to really, and that was, we got married in 2001. So we'd been married about 9 years by this point. And I just started to let some thoughts really circle in my head, and I didn't have an outlet for them. I didn't know that they were messed up. And the thoughts were, I got to change something. And the only constant that's been in my life this whole time is Mandy. Well, she must be the problem.
Yeah.
Like, I didn't even point at myself.
Wow.
I was just like, because we had been sort of sweethearts since like second grade. I had a crush on her in second grade, and this will get to the answer to your question. Yeah. So we passed notes in seventh grade. Like, we had this long thing, and then I get out of college, we get married, I get my first job, and I'm just like, oh man, now I'm a cog in a machine. And I just was like, bleh. And speaking of creatives, I was a designer. I went to school for graphic design and was an art director at different places, and then eventually creative director. But we get down to Ramsey, and I started as a senior designer for him, and that discontentment came back. And I thought moving down there and starting this new thing would be good. And the thoughts I started to let ruminate in my head were, I married the wrong person. We got married too young. I didn't know any better, and I didn't have any outlet for those. And so I just let them keep going. And I didn't know it at the time, but it just started to build, and I didn't have anywhere to go with them. And so I was out for a run in 2010. I don't know why it was this run, but I was just really overwhelmed during that run of, I can't live like, I can't be this discontent anymore. And I really was like, okay, well, I guess we got to get a divorce. I guess that's the answer. And that thought then started to whirl around my head. And as I started to kind of play that out, I'm like, okay, well, where will she go live? What will happen to the kids? We just had 2 kids at the time. And I start playing this out, and I start crying, like overwhelmed with it. And I'm running and crying and running. And all of a sudden, something just slices through those thoughts. And this has never happened before. It's never happened since like this. But just a thought sliced through all of those thoughts. And it was like so loud. It felt like a punch in the face. And it was just, be still and know that I'm God. And it was so different than anything I was thinking. Like one day, in the afterlife, I'll go watch the videotape and be like, okay, how loud was it? Or whatever, however it's going to work someday. But it really did shock me out of my thinking right there. And I was like, God, was that you?
Mm.
Is that what people talk about? Like, it was just so strange. And as I finished my run, I got home, and as I walked into the house, I just had this other thought that the truth will set you free. And I didn't even know that Jesus was the one who said that. It was just, my upbringing, and that scripture was around, or that phrase was around. And when I had that thought, the truth will set you free, I had this little pull to write my wife a letter and tell her everything. No filter, no editor. I was just like, if I'm willing to maybe play with the idea of getting a divorce, I might as well risk telling the truth about what I'm thinking and feeling. And so she was out that night. So I sat at our little kitchen desk and I just started writing. And as I wrote, stuff just started coming out, and stuff I hadn't told anybody, from my childhood, like all these things. And I was like, here's this. And as I wrote those thoughts down, I didn't realize this was happening at the time, but as I wrote them down, I started to see them differently. And I was like, man, what if these thoughts aren't true? Like, what if they're just thoughts? And what if what I've been thinking is a result of like distorted crap I've been putting into my head, and culture and lustful thinking and all these things? What if I've trained my brain this way? What if this thinking isn't true? As I saw them on the page, it just felt different. I can't explain it. And I don't even know if I would have been able to explain it there at the time. But as I wrote, I got to the end and I was like, you know what? I think maybe these thoughts are distorted, and I'm in to fight for our marriage if you are. And so I wrote that at the end. And when she got home, I said, hey, can we talk? And I sat down and I read her the letter, and she was, hurt and all the things you would think when I say, hey, I'm doubting our marriage. Maybe we got married too young, like all of this stuff.
Yeah.
But thankfully, at the end, she said, you know what? I hear what you're saying, and I'm in to fight too.
I'd love to introduce you to something I created specifically for brains like yours. Think Time membership is a guided neuroplanning membership designed to help you align with your design, work with your brain, and build your dreams with more clarity, confidence, creativity, and presence. Instead of forcing yourself into systems that don't fit you, you'll learn how to plan in the native, creative language of your brain using my neuroplanning framework. Love your design, then dream, decide, do, review. Inside the membership, you'll join a community of growth-oriented leaders for weekly, monthly, quarterly, and annual guided planning experiences, so you'll never have to figure it out all alone. Your membership also includes access to the Think Time Neuroplanner, a whole brain visual planning system designed to help you harness the strengths of your mind instead of constantly fighting against it. And when you join, you'll receive access to the neuroplanning course and tutorials, planning tools and templates, live group coaching, monthly Q&A, and a live onboarding session so you can begin to use the system right away. If you're ready to increase your opportunity to experience more clarity, calm, confidence, creativity, meaningful productivity, and presence while getting more of the right things done in less time with peace, not pressure, visit think-time.com/podcast. I'd love to help you build a life that works with your brain, aligns with your design, and reflects what matters most.
And so that was the beginning of our sort of healing. But another thing happened because of that experience was, man, I told my wife the truth of what I was thinking and feeling, distorted, warts and all. And it helped heal our marriage. I wonder if I started writing every day the honest thoughts and feelings I was having, and at the time it was just letting them go to God, like just like, here's what's going on today, and I just started writing, not with a filter, like not what I think I should say or the nice words about the Bible verse or whatever. It was just like the truth of what my brain was doing. And I started doing that not long after that letter to her, and I'd get up a little earlier, and it was like 2 or 3 days a week at the beginning. And then it went to 4 days, and then 4 to 5 days a week. And all of a sudden a year goes by, 2 years goes by, 3 years goes by with this consistent habit. And I look up 5 years later, and our marriage is better than ever. We had 2 more kids. I had gotten a bunch of promotions at work. We had paid off all our debt. Like, this stuff was happening. And I'm like,
Wow.
Like, this is amazing. And I had a team of people on my team then at work, and they would come to me with problems, and I'd just be like, hey, okay, here's what you do. Tomorrow morning, get up early. I just want you to write without a filter, get it out on the page. After that, come let me know what you're thinking. And they'd come back and they'd be like, that was awesome. I feel so much better. I think I know what I want to do. And I'm like, cool. So I just sort of, in 2015, I started talking about it more. No one knew that story for those first 5 years. It was just Mandy and I going through our lives. And then I started telling a little bit of that story, and eventually started to teach some journaling things at Ramsey, and then kind of became known as the journaling guy at the same time as being the chief creative officer there. And I got on the board there, and eventually I just felt such a pull to help people learn to do this that I left that role. It'll be 4 years in August to start this thing. And it's slowly but surely growing, and I'm hoping to just have everybody sort of set aside some time every day and slow down to figure out where they're going, So that's
I love it.
Long story long.
I love that. That's great. A long story long. That is the best phrase I think I've ever heard. So, okay, I love this so much. And what I see as a general pattern between some of the most influential thought leaders is you had a moment in your life.
Sure.
You were changed.
Yeah.
You were playing with something. You discovered something. You applied it, then you kind of created this way to share it with others. And that to me is the journey of a creative leader. Like, you're either going to crash before any of that starts, or you start playing with things. Where are my solutions? Where do I find this? Where are my answers? And in your case, God just kind of dropped it on you while you're jogging, and that helps, just to have this awareness of be still. Stop spinning.
Stop. Yes.
You can almost hear this like, Lucas, I love you.
Yeah. Right.
I am your father.
Stop.
Do people say that to you all the time? Luke, I am your father.
Luke, I am your father. Yeah, every time they do, I'm like, that's the first time I've heard that. Did you think of that?
I don't know, it just popped into my head. So that is so great. There's so much that you said. Obviously, that was a long story long. So many things that you came across. One of the things that has struck me in leadership is, and especially with, how do I say? I want to say passionate leaders.
Okay.
The creative leader is one that is going to be, we're talking full throttle forward, right?
Yeah.
And when you have your full throttle forward, you're going somewhere fast, wherever it is, it's going to happen, and it can crash.
Yeah.
Or it can be a really great, beautiful thing. And so it feels like you were headed toward your crash.
Yeah.
You were so close to a crash and burn.
Yeah.
Your family legacy going one certain direction, and it was not going to be good. Oh, there are two things that are popping into my mind I want to talk about, but I just love that you were close.
Yeah.
And then it didn't go that way, and it went this way. And the one word that's popping out to me is truth.
Yeah.
And yet when you wrote, you admitted this may not be true.
Yeah.
So how do you put together that? The big realization that you had was truth. Like, I've got to acknowledge the truth to myself. But then there's this weird part about it where you're like, what I'm writing, I don't know if it's true. How did you put those two together?
That's a great question. Let me think about it.
It's such an interesting way to get to truth, is to write down what you're not sure is true.
Yeah, like you just write down what you're thinking.
Yeah.
And then decide objectively. Like, that's the difference between talk therapy and journaling, for example. So, and I'm not a talk therapy expert, so I'm not going to speak all that. But what I found is, like, rumination. I was having those thoughts knocking around in my head, and I've done some study on rumination, and it actually makes the thing you're worried about worse, because you're just playing it over and over and over and over again. So when you write it down, it starts to put structure to something that feels really squishy. So we don't think in sentences very often. Right. We think in colors and blips and a lyric of a song and a feeling. And I think I need to do that thing. And then I'm going to do this. And what's for dinner? And it's kind of all over the place. Yeah. And when you write it down, you're like, that feeling of, oh, maybe I got married too young. I might have been thinking it around, but once I write it down, I'm like, maybe I got married too young, all of a sudden your brain is like, and it starts to create some sort of structure and eventual meaning to all of these things. Like, that's the science behind writing things down, is that it starts to help your brain make sense. Now, I didn't know any of that thing was happening at the time, but I think that once I wrote it down, some kind of realization, and it probably was something I was listening to and something else that happened that I don't even remember, that was like, hey, just because you think it doesn't mean it's true. And one of the interesting things that I don't remember where I first heard it or whatever, but I started also, in addition to journaling it, whenever I would have a thought that was something about Mandy not being the one for me, or a lustful thought, or something about somebody else, or whatever, I would go, nope. I love Mandy. She's the wife of, love the wife of your youth. Do not do as the pagans do. It was like this little verse thing. Every time something like that would come into my brain, I would change it. I was like, I was choosing the thing I actually wanted versus the simple, easy thing. And I was like, no, I want to be with this person. I want us to build a life together. There's going to be lots of distractions. And it wasn't just marriage. This is in anything. But I started to, anytime something would come in that was like against that, I would just be like, nope, I love the wife of my youth. I'm not going to do as the pagans do, and blah, blah, blah. I can't remember the exact phrasing, but I said it over and over and over again. And I started to, over time, believe it.
Believe it. What you heard again and again. I've heard you say that before.
Exactly.
What you hear repeatedly, you begin to believe.
And that's not just like, as I've studied it over these last 15 years, it's not just like a positive thinking, blah, blah, blah. No, it's actually scientifically proven. It's neuroplasticity. You're teaching your brain to do this. And the more you do it, the easier those pathways become. Either way, negative or positive. And so, again, I keep saying this. I didn't know I was doing it at the time, but I was just like, nope, I'm going to make my brain do this. And that was the other thing. I was just like, even though I think it doesn't mean it's true. Yeah.
That's such a big transition to make.
Yeah.
That has to be one of the grandest transitions to make, because so many people believe every thought they have.
Yeah.
And when you do, I mean, most of our thinking is built on these little bitty neural pathways that happen when you're 4, that you probably misinterpreted something. And then you build everything on top of those neural superhighways.
Yeah.
And where did that come from? Oh my gosh, it was my little league coach that told me I was no good.
Right.
When I missed the ball one time, when he had a bad day. That is huge. Not believing every thought. And then I like the way you said it. I was going to make my brain. What did you say? I told my brain
I was going to make my brain do what I wanted. Like the thing I tell my kids and people in the Holy Work program all the time, your brain does what you tell it.
Yes.
Over and over and over again. Yes. Your brain does what you tell it. If you say the world is a horrible place and you take in all the negative stuff all the time, your brain will be like, oh yeah, the world's a horrible place. Like that's what we believe. Or if you're like, no, this is actually the best time in the history of the entire universe to be alive.
You're going to find different things in your environment when you start your day that way.
And
this is the best day to live.
Things like that. And it is. And I want to help people get there.
That's awesome. Something that also stood out to me in the long story long was what I would call external locus of control to internal locus of control. So when you were evaluating your life at the beginning and you were saying, I'm uncomfortable, I'm unhappy, it must be her.
Yeah.
I thought this job outside of me would satisfy me. So I moved my family to Nashville, Tennessee, and I got here and it didn't do everything I wanted it to do. All these things that you were doing, they were external. And then when you told the truth, it was an internal thing. And then you started making internally guided decisions. And so I feel like that you had this massive shift from looking outside of yourself to change your life, to recognizing, wow, I have power inside myself to impact my own destiny, my happiness. There's the God piece where you're accepting that.
Absolutely.
that
Absolutely.
guidance.
Because I got out of school in 2001, and the phrase, "this isn't what I'm supposed to be doing," was always knocking around in my head. And I, for the longest time, didn't know what I was supposed to be doing. I just knew this wasn't it. And now I'm like, yeah, I don't know, maybe. I think I was doing exactly what I needed to be doing. But at the time, I didn't have someone going, "Hey, so what do you actually want?" I wrestled with it, and I knew I didn't want to be a 9 to 5 person in my office, sitting at a computer all day, reporting to somebody else. Like, that stuff drove me crazy. And it was like, this isn't what I'm supposed to be doing. I'm not supposed to be sitting on my butt all day. But I didn't have anybody in my life, or maybe I just wasn't listening, that said, "Hey, so actually, what do you want?" And one of the things
So simple.
and so my reaction to that was like, I started a band with my friends. And so we would be out all the time. And like, I, for a long time, thought the band was going to take off and that would save me. But really what I wanted was some level of agency over my life. And I had it, but I wish someone would have said, "Hey, let's map out what you actually want."
I love that.
And that's what I want. That's what I help people do now in Holy Work. Like, I want them to define it. Like, what is the thing? And don't be embarrassed. Like, Christians especially are embarrassed to say what they desire, like what they want. And if you would have asked me then, I would have said, well, I want my band to take off. I want to be a musician. I want to be a songwriter, and I want to play shows. And if someone would have said, okay, well, what does that really mean? You probably can't do that in Rockford, Illinois. It's probably not going to work out. And so we, try to get to Chicago and do all these things. But if we would have sat down and said, okay, if this is what you want for your life, what does that really mean?
What do you expect that to give to you? Like, if you achieve that, then what is that for you? And then piece that apart. And
so we could have played it out, and I just never did that. And that's where a lot of the frustration came. But moving down to Nashville, starting to work for Ramsey and Dave, he was, he's such a purpose-driven personality. He helped me so much with those things. I worked with him very directly a lot, and whether he knew it or not, he knows his mission on this life, in this world, and he is going after it and making those things happen and choosing things in his life to make those things a reality, for better or worse. And seeing that, I really was like, well, I'm not actually that good of a musician. So I'm glad that didn't happen. But I really do like writing. I like speaking. I like making content. I like doing these kinds of things. And it just started to show me, oh, there's a path here that I could work out. And so, yeah.
That's really cool.
Yeah.
Well, and I love that you watched him. I talk about the mirror neurons a lot. Just, you watched him and you saw that's different. Oh, okay. Yeah. So that's how you do that. You're clear about your mission, and then you orchestrate all the pieces to go in that direction.
Make really hard decisions to make those things happen.
To be in proximity to someone who's doing that on the daily basis and basically discipling other people how to do it, like training people underneath him. Yeah. That's awesome. That is a great opportunity. Okay. So I joined your Holy Work membership in the fall, and I'm only out for a small time until it doesn't align. I have a hard time with the commute. Otherwise I'd be in it right now. It's hard to journal while I'm driving. But that's going to be, it's very short-term lived, and I can't wait to get back in. But what I know about the journaling method, and then listening to you and following your guidance and leadership for a while, is that you still have feelings.
Oh, yeah.
And you had feelings back then, and you have feelings now. And then I've heard you talk more about even anxiety today. And so, the anxiety didn't disappear, but it looks different now. So how do you notice it showing up today, and how do you respond to it differently than you did before?
Yeah. I didn't know some of the feelings I was having was anxiety until about 2018. It was just this angst or something, I didn't even know what it was. And then I did start going to a counselor in around that time. And I would say, I just got this feeling like right here, and I don't know like what to do with it. And he was like, Luke, that's anxiety. and I was just like, okay. And I really did not want to admit that. Like, no, I'm cool. I don't have anxiety. I can handle things. And I just started to be like, okay, if that's true, what does it mean? And I just started reading everything and studying everything and continued to go to the counselor and continued to just really dig in. And it's solved way more now than it was. Anxiety now comes more from, okay, will this thing keep working? Like, is this going to be a sustainable business and really help people? And so it's like a money anxiety kind of a thing. Like, okay, will our needs be taken care of? And so I now know to be like, okay, that's fear. So anxiety is an impairment of fear. Fear is not necessarily a bad thing. It's actually a signal. And I love Chip Dodd's framework of the 8 core feelings. He has this book out called The Voice of the Heart, and I love the way he talks about it. And he says these 8 core feelings, which all sound negative, it's anger, fear, shame, guilt, sadness, hurt, lonely, and I think I said them all, and glad. But like 7 out of those 8 seem negative. And so you're like, well, I don't want to feel that. But if you look at that fear as a gift, and I say, okay, I'm feeling some fear here. Okay, what's it signaling? I need to learn some more things about how to grow my business, or I need to work on XYZ and learn this thing. And it's a signal to be like, oh, if I wasn't afraid of the traffic, I'd wander out and get hit by a car. If I wasn't a little bit afraid of this new venture not working, I'd watch Netflix all day or whatever. So that fear of like, oh no, geez, I got to take care of my family, I got to figure this out, is actually a good thing.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
That's a big piece. And I love that in the membership, you talk about the gifts and the impairments of the feelings. So can you talk about that a little bit?
For sure. And that's, I want to give credit to Chip Dodd. I mean, there's been so many, Maslow's hierarchy of needs and all of these things, and there's tons of research on the feelings, but there's some that have like 100, and it's just so complicated. What I love about Chip's work is it's 8. These are the 8 core feelings, and this is the voice of your heart. And it feels weird to be like, wait, hurt is the voice of my heart? Loneliness is the voice of my heart? But like, for example, loneliness, I love it when someone admits they're feeling lonely, because it's one of the hardest ones to admit. But the gift of that, when you recognize it and admit it to yourself, is, man, I'm feeling lonely. What is the signal? Oh, I need to connect with some people. So I'm going to text my friends, say, hey, can you guys hang out tonight?
Yeah.
Or if I don't have any friends or no strong connections, man, I'm feeling really lonely. I'm going to go join a gym or a church. And I'm just going to start showing up, and I'm going to try to make some friends. If we never felt lonely, that wouldn't happen. Now, if we ignore that loneliness and we keep smashing it down and saying, well, I don't need anybody, eventually it'll turn to apathy. Well, I don't care, and I'm just going to shut down. The same with like anger has been a big one. I always my dad had a very hot temper growing up. I always thought, oh, when somebody gets angry, that just means they're crazy. Like they can't handle their stuff. Well, really what I was reacting to was rage. And when people, get rageful, it's like, we need to work. There's something else going on here. But if I can admit that I'm angry, anger causes change. Anger shows passion. The gift of anger is that passion, and it shows you what you really want. Like I was actually pretty angry in those discontent, like complainy days, because I wanted something else. I just didn't know what it was at the time. And so anger shows, okay, I'm passionate about something. Let's look at what that is. So what is the gift of anger? Shows you what you really want, shows you what you care about.
That's awesome.
So we could go through each one if you want, but that's the beginning. Yeah.
It's so insightful. And I think the thing that struck me in the membership was the layering of the emotions, that you would kind of piece it out. I had done the Chip Dodd gift and impairments elsewhere.
Okay.
And then when I got into your membership, I was like, oh wow, there are like layers to these feelings. So I think there was one point where I was like, I think we were discussing hurt, and you're like, I don't know if it was even me or somebody else. I think it might have been me listening to somebody else talk about hurt specifically. what's under hurt? I think you like pieced it out with, well, underneath the hurt, is it this or that? And I was like, oh.
Yeah.
And then I don't remember all the layers, but just talk generally, whether it's hurt
Yeah,
or another
sure.
feeling. But are there any layerings? If there's one layering that you see more often in your coaching or in the membership, I just think there's one thing to say, I feel hurt. And then there's another thing to go under the hurt and find out, was it anger or sadness? Are those the two under? Is that what it is?
They're not really under. They're just like sometimes adjacent. And so a lot of times, like someone will say, well, I'm just really hurt by, my mother-in-law or whatever it is.
Yeah.
Okay. What happened?
Mm-hmm.
Well, she said this and then this happened. Okay. Well, have you ever said that out loud to yourself? Like, no, that really hurts. That hurt.
Mm-hmm.
Like she said whatever she said.
Mm-hmm.
Well, no, I guess not. Because if you don't admit it, it leads to resentment. Like, I'm just going to resent this woman because she keeps saying blah, blah, blah. Okay. Well, let's just admit out loud that hurts when she does this thing. Or I'm just using mother-in-laws. I'm not trying to pick on mother-in-laws.
Yeah. No offense to any mother-in-laws out there. I'm sure that wasn't my story. That was not my story.
Yeah, exactly. If we just say, man, that hurt when the person said that, all of a sudden you're like, geez, yeah. So then the gift of hurt is healing.
That's right.
So if you go, and then courage too. So if the next question is, okay, well, have you ever talked to your mother-in-law about that? No, you haven't?
To bring it into the relationship.
Yeah. Now, okay, do you want your relationship with your mother-in-law to continue on? If the answer is yes and get better, okay. So then let's figure out if we need to go say that to her. And the answer might not always be yes, depending on the situation. But if you can start by saying, no, that just really hurt. Okay. Now, what else? Well, actually, I'm kind of angry about it. Like my husband didn't defend me and whatever the story is. Okay. Tell me what the anger's about. Well, I just wish she would, blah, blah, blah. Okay. Well, you're angry about it. Yeah, I am. Well, what do you want? Well, I want a really good relationship with my mother-in-law, and I wish she would stop doing that. Okay.
Now we're somewhere.
Now we're talking. You do want that.
I want.
So let's go. What would taking her to lunch and saying, hey, I really do want a great relationship with you. Like, I feel like we got a lot of things to gain from being in this relationship. And man, when you say this, it does this. And I don't want to be angry with you. And tell me what's going on there. And then you sort of take it to a relational place where, hey, let's build on this. And that's not always going to go perfect. But if oh, I'm hurt. Oh, I feel some anger about that. What do we need to do about it? That's the anger causing change. So it's like those 8 core feelings are signals that show us what we need. And that's why Chip calls it the voice of the heart, because it is like what your heart really needs. And I put in the membership, I also put like a lot of people had a hard time being like, well, I don't know which one of these 8 I'm feeling. So I went through and I put all these descriptors underneath them, like for anger, okay, agitated, aggravated, bitter, contemptuous, disgruntled, to help you sort of, oh, yep, I am feeling kind of resentful. Okay, that falls under anger. Okay, if I can admit that, all right, what do I actually want? Or shame is another one that a lot of people mix up with guilt. They'll say, well, I'm just feeling guilty. And I'm like, okay, well, tell me what you've done wrong. And they're like, well, actually, I don't think I did anything wrong. And I'm like, okay, the gift of guilt is you need to go ask forgiveness for something you've done wrong. Well, you didn't do anything wrong. You might just be feeling shame. And the amazing thing about shame, which is so weird to say, the amazing thing about shame.
Yeah, that is a funny phrase. I like that.
Weird phrase is it shows you your limits.
Yes. Yes, I can see that.
When someone says, I can't do this anymore. If it's a job or something, I just can't handle this job anymore. And you're just like, you let it go and you're like, geez, I feel really ashamed that I can't handle this anymore. But also, I feel a little freedom. Like when I just admit it, or when you've done something that, you just can't handle. It just shows your limits. I mean, that's another interesting one to explore with people.
Was humility the gift of shame? Is that right?
Yes.
Humility.
Like
Yeah.
yeah, it's like when you have to admit your limits or that you just can't do something, you're like, oh geez, yeah, humble. There it is, Or
That,
when
yeah.
you not that you did anything wrong, but like if you didn't mean to, I don't know, mess up something with your neighbor and you're like, geez, I just accidentally backed into your car or whatever it was. Geez,
Yeah.
I'm not perfect. Sorry. you know?
I think that's so good. And the shame piece is, man, that's so true. It leads to humility. It's,
Yeah.
I am not who I want to be.
Yeah.
And that is something to say. It's almost a starting point.
Yeah.
And I think people who can't feel shame, who have an inability to feel shame, who can't say, I'm not who I want to be, have to put a
Yeah.
lot of things out of their awareness.
Yeah. Or put a bunch of masks on.
Lots of masks. And I think that's the awareness piece, that you have to push things away if you cannot acknowledge shame.
Yeah. Yeah.
And that's really critical. I'm going to take this and tie it to my next question,
Okay.
because with leadership, there's been a lot of studies that say that self-awareness is numero uno quality in a leader.
Yep.
It's number one. It is the most important thing. And so what I see your process doing for people is increasing self-awareness. So how have you seen Holy Work help leaders, and if you can say specifically creative leaders, grow in their self-awareness and avoid burnout or relational fallout? What have you seen?
Yeah, man. Great question. First off, self-awareness is the hardest trait to teach anybody. So it is listed as number one. It's the most important thing. And if you know when someone doesn't have it, but it's so hard to teach them, I'll get to the point here and answer your question. But I remember I was on an interview with somebody and we were at dinner with them, and it was like the last interview of this session, and we were seeing if we wanted to hire them. So we're at dinner. We had this nice dinner. We'd been there probably an hour and a half, which is, I was about ready to go at that point. And the waiter comes around and says, hey, and you could tell everybody was ready to go. It was like conversations were wrapping up, and the waitress comes up and says, hey, can I interest you guys in anything else, some dessert or coffee or anything? And, everybody was ready to go. But the person we were about to hire was like, yeah, I think I'll take, can I get a menu? And I'd like a coffee. And I was like, oh my gosh, he has no awareness of anything that's happening in the room.
Yeah.
And it's actually like others' awareness. So how do you teach that? I don't have that figured out. If anybody gets that figured out, they're going to be very wealthy, because it's such a weird thing. However, when someone can set aside time to reflect on their day, you start to notice patterns over time. So if someone can develop the discipline to set aside a half hour and write down some unfiltered thoughts, and then start to look at those things and those patterns that come up over time, you can start to notice things that you didn't know were there before.
Yeah.
And getting into a relationship with somebody, or a mentorship or a coaching situation where that person starts to see those patterns as well and starts to call them out for you. So that's why it's really good when you have a great leader, or if you have a team member, you are with them in the trenches every day. And so you really have to, if you are the creative leader listening to this and you have some people on your team that are so unaware, what you have to do is you have to build an incredible relationship with them, so that you can be like, hey Sarah, I notice whenever this happens, you don't know you're doing it, but you retract or you retreat, or whatever that thing is they do, and they trust you. So then they're like, oh, I'm going to keep an eye out for that. So that's how, like, you as a leader can do it, is build a relationship and then get to the point where you can call out the truth that you see in there. For yourself, you have to get around people who you allow to say those things to you, and then just say, okay, I'm going to take note of that, and I'm going to listen. And it has to be someone you trust and, someone you respect. If someone just comes up and be like, you're a jerk all the time, well, you're going to be like, whatever, I don't trust your opinion anyway. But I don't know if that answers your question. But as far as working internally, getting into a daily habit, like of this journaling, and actually saying, what am I feeling right now? like on this podcast right this second, I'm feeling excited. Like I love talking about this stuff. Fear, that, oh geez, is it going to come through? Is it going to be really good? Did I say too much? Those are sort of knocking around, but I'm acknowledging it right here. And so if you can get to the point of be like, okay, I'm actually a little afraid of what's happening. I'm really glad about it. Or if you have a meeting or something, if you can just slow down enough to start acknowledging what's actually happening, it will start to develop the habit of reflection.
Yeah.
There's a great quote. I'm blanking on the guy's name, but he says, we don't learn from experience. We learn from reflecting on experience.
Ooh, I love that.
And yeah. And it's like, yeah, I can go through something, but if I don't slow down and go, geez, what did I learn from that? And that's what writing helps you do. It helps you process.
So good. So good. Well, I see this as just such a critical process that any creative leader would want to engage in. The three things that stand out to me in your work is, you're acknowledging that creative, fast-paced mind. It's all over. It's really going fast. You typify a creative leader. You led an entire team of creatives. That is a creative leader. So you know what you're talking about when you're talking about this fast-paced mind that needs to find a way to be oriented in a way that's going forward and not just scattering.
Yep.
So the creativity piece I loved, and that you played with it to create this process. And it's almost like a child. Will this work if I turn this upside down? What will happen? Oh, exactly. That worked. So I love that creative process that you talked about. I love the slow down, just in our world that goes faster and faster and faster.
Yeah.
Just pause.
Take
a moment before diving in. Your day's going to happen. It's going to be crazy. But before you get into it, let's just pause. Yeah. And then after it, let's reflect. Yeah. Or the next day, reflect. And then the third piece is that telling the truth. Yeah. Telling the truth. And I think that if people will do these things, if they will acknowledge they have the potential to move so fast they can crash, slow down, tell the truth, I just don't see how you could possibly have a leadership crash and be moving through those steps, acknowledging the potential for failure, slowing down, reflecting, and telling the truth. You're not going to have deceptions. You're not going to have, if you're telling the truth as a habit.
Have to be honest. Yeah.
Have to tell the truth. But if you are,
sometimes I'll just sit there and I'll like, if I'm just feeling very overwhelmed, I'll just pull out my journal or even sometimes a notepad on the computer and just write, all right, I'm sitting here. It's Tuesday, February 3rd. It's 2:00. Mandy's out at an appointment. I just got someone who canceled the membership. Man, I'm feeling really annoyed by that. I will just write down what's actually happening.
Yeah.
And
that's interesting.
Man, I'm kind of, I'm afraid that I'm not connecting with my son as much as I want to. Like I will just write out what's happening. And I realized this over time. I didn't know it at the time, but those first 5 to 10 years of doing this every day was me deciding what I thought about things before anybody else or the day or the world could tell me something different. So when I was writing in the morning, it would be like, geez, this is coming up and I've got this thing. And man, I don't even know if we should be doing this other thing. And I would just write it all out. So then during the day, I'd be like, well, I already knew sort of what I thought about the stuff or whatever it was. That helped me navigate the day better. And as you bring up creatives are thought leaders. They are. They create something out of nothing. Like that's the job. Yeah. You bring up all these disparate things. Like you've got a Word doc from a marketer and you've got this thing from the business person and you've got all these things and you're pulling all that together. But the question I ask people who consider themselves thought leaders, how can you be a thought leader if you never give yourself any time to think?
Mic drop.
Like you can't be. You're just reacting or sleepwalking or numb. Yeah. This is not, you have to do this.
I love that. How can you be a thought leader without taking time to think? I mean, hello. That's the obvious that it was said here first. I just want to say that's so great. I love it. Okay. So for people who are thinking, this is for me, I've got to carve out time to think. I just need to be honest with myself. I want to get in touch with my feelings by the feelings master. Like, how do I Like, what does it look like? If I wanted to get involved with the Holy Work method and membership, they're hearing about it for the first time. What does that practice look like on a practical level? Or next step?
Two things. Next steps would be you can visit holywork.com and read all about it there. I would love for you to connect with me on Instagram. That's where I talk to lots of people. It's just Luke LeFevre. That's hard to spell, but look in the show notes or something. And you can just send me a message there. Just DM, hey, I heard you on this podcast, and I'll send you this free guide that will get you started. It's a whole walkthrough of the Holy Work method. It's got some of those feelings, things in we talked about today. That's where I would start as far as connecting with me. If you don't feel like doing that, after this podcast is over, set a timer on your phone for 15 minutes. Sit in 1 minute of silence and just say, I'm here. Then after that minute is over, I want you just to start writing for 10 minutes. Just start writing. Don't worry about spelling. Don't worry about grammar. Don't edit yourself. Don't lift your pen for 10 minutes. Just write everything that's in your brain. It doesn't matter if it's silly and you're like, well, I'm thinking about the car and I have bills and all this stuff. Great. That has to get out. Write for 10 minutes. Don't lift your pen. Don't worry about spelling. Don't edit yourself. And then after that 10 minutes, ask yourself 2 questions. 1, slow down, close your eyes and say, okay, God, in light of everything I wrote, what do you want to say to me? And then just listen for 2 minutes. And then after that, just sit and say, okay, what is the action I can take based off of all these things I journal? That's what I would do.
I love it. I love it. And it's amazing when you do that 10 minutes, that minute 8, 9, 10, all of a sudden the things start coming out that matter.
Exactly.
It's amazing. Those last 2 minutes, it's very incredible.
Okay.
Okay. Lucas, thank you so much for sharing your story and your work so openly. I just appreciate how your approach is so honest and practical at the same time. And it gives people permission to slow down and tell the truth. And so for those listening, if this conversation resonated with you and you want to explore journaling in a way that's thoughtful, faith-informed, and grounded in real life, you can learn more about Lucas's work in the Holy Work membership at holywork.com. You can grab your free guide in the show notes. Lucas, thank you for joining. I'm so glad you came. Okay, we'll see you next time. This podcast is for educational and entertainment purposes only and isn't a substitute for individualized medical, mental health, or professional care. Every brain is different. Results will vary. Thank you for listening to Hyperfocus and High Performance. If today's conversation helped you think differently about how your mind works, I invite you to take the next step. Visit think-time.com/podcast and grab my free training. Why can't I find a planner that works for me? If you've ever felt frustrated, judged, even by yourself, overwhelmed, or simply wondered why everyone seems to be able to follow a system that simply doesn't work for you, you're not alone. In this free training, you'll discover how your brain naturally approaches focus, planning, and productivity, and why many traditional systems were never designed for minds like yours, and whether neuroplanning could help you increase your opportunity to experience more clarity, calm, confidence, creativity, and meaningful progress with peace, not pressure. And if this episode encouraged you, please subscribe, share it with a friend, and leave a review so more brilliant, creative ADHD visionaries can discover what's possible. Remember, you don't have to become someone else to do what only you can do, because only you can be who only you can be, and otherwise there will be a hole in history. The path forward is clear. Love your design, then dream, decide, do, review. I'll see you next time.